Hello, everybody. How's it going? Welcome back to part 3, I think, of my Boris Johnson satire sculpt, I suppose you could call it. Basically just me mucking about in Zbrush for 2 hours every week. It's good to be back doing it again. I'm quite confident I'll be able to do this regularly, or continue to do it regularly, and for more for doing it more than anything else, really. For doing its sake, to keep me doing Zbrush is the main reason for doing these. It's quite easy to fall out of practice with Zbrush, and I am at the moment trying to keep on it, trying to see projects through to the end, trying to get them all the way to 3D print and get them up on my Etsy shop, which I've now I opened officially a while ago with my little alien eggs. My little alien eggs, which are Wacom pen holders also. See if we can get a good look at that. Get it in its little thing. Yeah, so if you want one of those, I will link to my Etsy shop. Also, this chap here, who has a loose head, but will hopefully be let's see if I can turn the light away from him, it'll give you a better idea. There we go. So this, at the moment its head is off, because I'm toying with the idea of different heads, and this is basically a prototype, but this is also available on my Etsy shop. Anyway, that was a segue of promo. I'll link that in the video description when the stream's over. But that is my kind of main focus now, to get things up on there, to design things for my Etsy, with my Etsy shop in mind, which hopefully can get people out there their hands on a few of my sculptures in real life. Hopefully can make me a bit of money in at the same time, and help fund all of this incredibly expensive habit. And yeah, and the live stream will hopefully help projects be fresher, and this Boris Johnson sculpt will be going up there as well at the end, and will hopefully be something people want in their homes. I don't think it's got to be quite clearly a skit, you know. People won't want statues of Boris Johnson in their house, generally, unless you are not my target audience. A little word of warning: I have really bad hay fever today. I don't know whether it's the dust or the humidity outside or what, but I don't usually get hay fever this year, so I've got my box of tissues, and I will be sniffling. So if you don't want the sound of mucus in your ear, then turn your volume down a little bit, because it's going to get annoying. It's not ideal, but hey ho. And yeah, so let's open Zbrush and see where we were last time. So yeah, last time I forgot to turn the stream on. I've done it this time. Last time I pressed start streaming in my OBS software, my streaming software, but then I forgot to press go live on YouTube for like a full hour nearly. So the entire process of the toilet is, I think most of it is lost, annoyingly, and a few other things as well, and also my lovely intro. But what can you do, eh? I'm still learning all of this stuff. So forgive the mic noise, I'll just lower it down a little bit. So yeah, last time we got it to this point, we've got a little bit of asymmetry in the face, but other than that, he's still essentially in his T-pose, which is not a T-pose, but for the purposes of this sculpt, it's best that I do him in this kind of hunched over position, because of the eventual pose he's going to be in anyway. I think this time we're going to focus on integrating the legs with the body, and making that fleshing that out a little bit better, and making it less block outy. Toilet, I would say, is pretty much done. Apart from we'll add some small details later on. The tank at the back, I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with that yet, but I'm going to have a little look at that today. The pants need obviously detailing and whatnot, but they're quite good as they are as well. I like the shape of them. The belt we added in at the end there last time. Yeah, so hopefully by the end of today we'll have we'll be at the posing stage, hopefully. We'll see how far we go, but I want to get to that pretty quickly, because I guess we're at the stage where we've got to consider how detailed we're going to make the model before we start posing it. Oh, and also we're going to do the table as well. So the table is going to be roughly about where his tie kind of levels out, kind of there, with just kind of a mess of documents on it covered in, I haven't figured out what yet, but it's going to be a dirty scene essentially. Like dirt is in, there's going to be food all over it or something like that. And yeah, basically just as we go, we're going to start adding detail. We're going to I'm just going to get stuck right into it by separating the shoes here. I think last time as well we fortunately missed out a lot of my rant about how much I hate sculpting shoes. I mean, not that much, but it's quite a boring thing to sculpt, in my opinion. So the idea of dropping the pants around the ankles was a Stroke of genius on my part. Just finesse the pants a little bit there. I noticed it was clipping, so let's do that. We'll add some belt loops in there as well, bearing in mind that we're going to be printing it. So if I dynamesh these together, we're not going to be adding a tremendous amount of detail. I have it docked. In general, I think it's going to be quite a smooth style, I think. So what I'll do is I'll use a slightly higher dynamesh resolution and just go in and smooth it out. Scale my brush up to make when you scale your brush up and smooth, it kind of it smooths a kind of stronger, but without over a bigger surface area. So it's a little bit different to just putting the strength up, the intensity up, sorry. And then what have we got for there's very little of the, oh, what's happened there? Something strange has happened to the collar. We'll sort that out at some point. That looks like it's been clipped at some point accidentally. In fact, we're symmetrical on that, I think, nowadays. So I'll just mirror and weld that, and then activate symmetry. So then symmetry is activated. Easy fix, that one. Okie dokie. So yeah, there's very little of the body itself visible. Apart from here at the back where his butt will be. And so if we figure out kind of how his butt is going to be without getting too graphic, I think we can kind of play with the idea of it overhanging over the side of the toilet. So I will just remesh the legs now, because I'm going to want to be able to work on low poly. Okay, subdivide it up a bit. See how I'm now losing the sharpness a little bit in the legs, behind the knees there, so just add that back in with the damn standard. And inflate it a little bit. Probably, I always find intensity at 10 for the inflate brush is just too strong for most cases, so I always drop it down. So I'll drop down the subdivision level slightly. increase my brush size and just inflate it down that seam until we have our crease back. Okay. Now we've got a low subdivision level, it's a lot easier to work on. And now I do intend to incorporate this body section. I'm unsure exactly how at the minute. I think maybe we'll need a crease going here to signify the body being tucked in a little and kind of hanging over. Yeah, that kind of works. And I'm going to inflate here. So, moving back the belly there has made me realise it would probably work better if we had all of these clothing elements moved back as well, slightly. It'll give more space for the table to come in. Kind of over here, it'd be more in between his legs rather than out in front of him, and that will make eventually the base of the sculpture a little bit smaller and easier to manage. Just like that. One of these isn't symmetrical. I think it might be the suit jacket, because we took it through to asymmetry to add the creases and the folds and such, I think, so it's not a problem. Okay, so what I'll do while it's in my head now is add in some buttons, and I will just quickly add in a button by Z modeling it in. So if I do that, and do this, mask out that area. I think we'll get more of a, clear the mask. We've got a bit more of a circle there, and we go into the Z. How did we do this? How have I don't think I've hotkeyed the Z modeler brush, so let's just get that up and then see if we can you know what, I'm a little out of practice with the Z modeler brush, and so I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to use a Z modeler to add to make this into a nice shape, and make it more how we want it. In conjunction with the move brush. Flatten these areas down a bit, and the bottom as well. And then using the Z modeler, there it is. Thought I docked it somewhere down there, it's really far down. And get rid of the subdivision levels. Tighten up the edge loops around the edge. There we go. It's a long-winded way to make a cylinder essentially, but I like to think the edge is a lot smoother. We've just got a nicer edge. Okay, so for what I want to do, I'm not going to need subdivision levels. I'm going to need it to be dynameshed, slightly higher resolution, slightly higher again. Let's go higher again. There we go. That should do it. And I'm going to create the holes that go in the thread will go through by just duplicating out the button itself and then repositioning the duplicate and then I can mirror and weld to the other side. Excuse me. Damn hay fever, I've got a pile of tissues accumulating. So now we can live boolean this out of the button, but not until we have split it by splitting unmasked, setting it to subtractive, and then if we bring everything back and bring everything back, but then isolate just what we want to see. And you notice that the eye is selected on the Boolean pieces, but because we've got live Boolean selected, they are invisible because they're on subtractive. And so if we now go in with the Boolean pieces, we can essentially cut them out. If I put on wireframe, you can kind of see what's going on there. Really cool. So there we have it, and I want essentially to have there to be a kind of lip to the edge of the button, as buttons often have. I should really have a reference for a button, but I'm confident enough that I know roughly what a button looks like. And now there are two ways that you can create this as a Boolean mesh. At the moment it still exists as two pieces, two subtools. One is just subtracting from the other, but we need to make it into one mesh, the button that we were going to use. And so I can either go down here in the subtool palette, click on Boolean and then make Boolean mesh, and then it'll create another tool for us consisting of that finalized piece. Or a way that I like to do it that's quite quick and doesn't involve going up here, selecting the new piece and then inserting it into here again. If you're confident that what you're doing is correct, you can just merge it down and then die mesh it out. And as long as the piece that you're merging down into is unsubtractive, then it will subtract it out as probably a leftover from the days where live Boolean didn't exist, but showing my age a little bit, I think. So now for the lip around the edge, I'm going to utilize the history of our existing tool, and I'm gonna duplicate it out, and so we've got now a new one with no history whatsoever. But now we've got this one also with the history that our creation history included in it. So I'm going to go back just before we Boolean them together, and so then that would leave me with one version without the holes and then one version with the holes. And I'm going to do essentially the same thing again, the same process again, but with this shape without the holes now. So there they are, overlaid on top of one another. And if I just scale down the sphere that we went back in the undo history, you should hopefully see what I'm about to do. Now if I just select, because I've got live Boolean selected, all I need to do is select the subtractive, and our shape will disappear. And then if I drop that in, I can drop it as deep or as shallow as I want, and then it's not in the middle. Now it is. And then and then I can scale it as well to make the edge a little bigger. And something about that doesn't look right. I know what it is. Yes. This is why reference is important. There should be 4 buttons. There should be 4 holes rather in the middle of the button. It's not a problem as such. I'll just quickly redo that because we've got the original shape. So this is why I say if you're confident that the thing you're about to do is right, because now there's no undo history to just go back and to a point where you can pick up straight from. So I'll just run through it quickly and redo the Boolean operation, but with 4 holes. And to make sure that they're on the right side, the right distance away, we'll go a little bit further out and we'll put them in. That'll do nicely. Bingo. I think that's looking more like a button already. Scale them down a little bit. And it may be that, I mean, this may end up being too much detail anyway, because these are going to be very, very tiny on the model. But we'll see. we'll do a full render of this as well. So I'm going to just duplicate that and turn that one off, merge that one down into the subtractive and undo it, redo it because I did that wrong. Another thing I should mention is that the things that you are merging down into need to also be have Dynamesh activated. So both components of the Boolean operation need to be have Dynamesh mode activated, which this doesn't at the moment, because the way the Boolean operation works is that when you Dynamesh, it recalculates the geometry and then subtracts anything subtractive from that model. And okay, so I can redo that. Now things are going to work for me. There we go, there we go. And then we'll bring in this piece, making sure I remember to activate Dynamesh mode on that. Put it underneath, because its subtractive thing is always underneath. Go deep-ish in there. Dynamesh, Dynamesh, merge down. And there we have it. A little bit of a button for you. Very cute. Now what I'm going to do is duplicate that. Z remesh it, so we've not got a 340,000 a dense button. My tea's gone cold. Okie dokie. So you can see, it's the reason why I've duplicated it, and you should see in a moment. I mean, this is quite nice, all things considered. But you can see how the Z remesh operation doesn't quite get the edge loops exactly where the edges are. So you get this kind of weird twisting. But that's you know, the kind of the thing about Z remesh is that it's never really 100% accurate. You need to either box model it yourself with the Z modeler or retopologize it, but it's really not worth it for this button. So I'm just gonna give it a couple of subdivision levels so that it's on 49,000 at its highest, which is 3. And then using our sharp version that we just cut out, but that has terrible geometry, we're gonna project, because one's on top of the other. You can see how one's roughly on top of one another. Okay, so we want the one with subdivision level selected, and we want to project all. And then obviously it didn't work for some reason. I mean, we really don't need to do this anyway. For the button it might be overkill, to be honest. So instead of investigating why that doesn't work, I won't waste my time on it, because we'll be smoothing this out anyway. Smooth, smooth, smooth. I might even do a couple of inflates to give it a bit of just a bit more of a cartoonish style to it. And then my main thing, that's why it would have been messing up, I think, because of symmetry was activated, I think. So the main things for these buttons are for the suit jacket detail on the side. I'm going to grow them a little bit oversized for now. And then, you know, I don't think we need subdivision levels on this. I'm going to keep it low poly, because essentially we're still blocking out a lot of areas of this. And that way I can control click and drag and make a duplicate really easily. Okay, so make sure to mirror and weld those to the other side. Going to just delete this box for the table because I'm going to do the buttons on the shirt using the same ones. Slightly smaller, I think. Push that in nice and close. And these are details that ultimately we may have to make the decision to abandon later on when it comes to 3D printing it. But as it stands, I would rather put the detail in now and take it away later, because once we've gotten round to posing it and whatnot, I'll be thankful that some details are in. The buttons themselves, funnily enough, might make it a bit tricky to pose, but the majority of the time I think I'm aiming to have a nice render of this done as well as the 3D print, because it will be a fun thing to have as a final piece. Okay, so move back to this area for now, and I really want to merge these, but I'm somewhat afraid of the commitment that it takes. So, you know, once I've merged these and Dynamesh them, then that's this seam. You know, that's this seam welded to the body, and so the chances of being able to edit or move the legs is kind of out the window. So maybe I will commit to merging them, but after I have posed the legs there or out a little bit. I think maybe I'll bring the legs down and out. Like this, and then merge them at this point, and then move them back in, right? what I am going to do is save it first, because you get a feeling with big moves like this that if it doesn't go well, it's a lot more hassle to backtrack than it is to just reload a save, you know, a checkpoint. Saving in progress. Okay, so let's commit to this. I kind of want them to have similar resolutions, so I'm going to dynamesh the legs, because the body is dynameshed together at the moment. I can tell by the geometry, and obviously it's highlighted there. And using in the dynamesh menu, don't use this very often, but if I was to click the picker on that and then dynamesh the legs, I think it aims to do them at similar densities, but click and drag the picker button. Ah, I see. So if I take that off, click and drag the picker button on the body, there we go, it'll match the density of the body, which is really cool. I like it. I don't know why I don't use it more often, so that when I merge the two together, there is a more I don't know what the word would be, but a more coherent density between the two pieces, so that now when I merge them, it'll just be a lot more seamless. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Lovely. And I'm just going to duplicate this and run our Z remeshing operation. This will make it easier to get our regular pose back. And the reason I'm doing this Z remesh operation is just so I can keep this this sculptable underneath the legs. I don't have to commit to the seam like I was saying earlier, and hopefully you'll see what I mean a little bit better in a moment. So I'm just going to up the resolution 1, maybe 2 there, subdivision level 3. Then I'm going to project all. It's going to take our detail from the dynameshed subtool and project it onto our model with subdivision levels. So now we can get rid of this one, because it is essentially a more useless duplicate. So now we have this, and we should hopefully be able to slide our mask down the edge loops. Whoops. And select the legs nicely for posing. It's not too nice, but we can deal with that, I think. And we can just select this part, see how neat we can make it. If we want to soften the mask heavily, then we can lower the subdivision level. Okay, and then let's bring back everything else. See if we can't move the legs back to where they were earlier. So they're coming right up there, so what I'm going to do is lower the subdivision level and really soften that mask. So we've got a bit of stretch going on there, so that's good. So you can see as we lift the leg up there, it's affecting the belly kind of organically, which is what we want. Hello there. And move them in. Trying to find the hip on this blob is quite a challenge. So let's continue to lift them. Can't really remember the pose that we were exactly on, but doesn't matter too much. Try and find where the shoes were. There we go. We can kind of get rid of everything else. Meet them there. So there we go. I feel like whenever anybody joins the chat, I feel like I need to explain myself as to what's going on here. But I'm not going to this time. I'm going to let you come to your own assessment about what I'm sculpting here. Hopefully you're disgusted. Feel free to ask me any question you like about the Zbrush process. I'm happy to divert and go and you know, teach little things or iron out anything any problems or anybody's having. You know, I am here to help as well as have fun sculpting politicians in compromising positions. Okay, so this kind of actually has worked better than I had hoped it would, because the back end of him now is kind of more flush to the back of the toilet lid, which now allows me to hide, for want of a better word, the kind of rude bits. Just playing with the how high I want to hike this suit jacket up by, you know. It would be kind of cool to reveal a lot of the back. It would be kind of grotesque, which is kind of what I'm going for here, so I may as well lean into that. Just inflate up the bottom a little bit. I'm very mindful of parts getting a bit too thin. Because of the 3D printing that will eventually happen to it. Okay, so what time are we on? 10:02, so we're nearly at the hour point, so I will just block out the table at this point so I know what I'm working with, and it's going to be a quite a simplistic table, I think, but it will consist of a lot of parts. So what I'll do, instead of creating the table in this, you know, mess of a million different unsorted subtools. I'm going to come into the main tool palette and just create a new subtool that we can start to work with. Just delete out this, we don't need it. And so we can just start. Beg your pardon. Accidentally clicked the Be Right Back button. We can start basically in a fresh subtool, and we don't have to get distracted by all of the other parts. So I'm going to start with table leg. This should be quite fun, what I have in mind. Just get my references up on the side here. Okay. Essentially, we're gonna make this a kind of ornate table is the idea. So like the kind of table your wealthy politician's gonna have in their office. Okay. Set that. And if I subdivide that a bit, then we can come into the transform palette, and then if we activate radial symmetry on the Y and turn off X, then we'll get how many? We'll get 8 points of symmetry all along the y-axis, and then we'll be able to start doing some pretty cool things with anything that is cylindrical and has a repeated pattern all the way around. I like to do this because it's pretty free and fun to do, because we can just come in and start lightly pulling and pushing. It's essentially like having this thing on a lathe or something, you know. Imagine it spinning at a million miles an hour, and then we can even come in with the mask as well, and then just take bits like that. And then if we want to do an even larger section, then we can select it. This has nothing to do with symmetry, but we can just take that and use the inflate slider to take that up. Use the radial symmetry to knock that back a bit. Take this part up, and then basically going to use it to fatten up the end of the leg there, where it's going to meet the floor, and there you go. We've got a very quick table leg that we can then subdivide a little bit more and come in and get really as detailed as we want to. You can also come up here, and if 8 radial points is not enough, you can double that to 16, and then you'll get rid of a lot of this kind of vertical stripes, which are essentially the gaps between the points. And then we can also go up with our You can go anywhere you want to, really. You can have a lot of fun with this. You know, you can base entire sculptures around the radial symmetry and all the things you can do with it. It's a lot of fun. And you can't really go wrong with it either. It's a very simple thing. We can also go in with different brushes. We don't have to just use the standard brush. Go in with our clay. We can add alphas to the clay brush to make it sharper, to create a ledge or a lip or a beveled edge or whatever. Do that to there, we'll do that to the bottom. Even Damien standard to create a sharper edge. And look at that. I could do this all night. I could do a stream purely dedicated to radial symmetry. If you ever want to feel like a pro in Zbrush, just to whack radial symmetry on and make a pot or a table leg. It is a lot of fun. And I don't like this. I think it will be hidden by the top of the leg anyway, but I'm going to just select my trim dynamic and run that up until we have, I just find with radial symmetry and what I'm trying to do here, I think it's a lot better than smooth, because it kind of works in a similar way to the smooth brush in this scenario, but you're sculpting at the same time. Basically, you're still sculpting. You're still adding an element to it. You're not just smoothing out any kind of detail. Okay, so let's not do that. So what I'm going to do there is, what am I going to do? I'm going to Z remesh this. Delete lower. Doesn't need to be taking that one. Let's whack it down one subdivision level. Delete higher, delete lower, and Z remesh. Go slightly faster. Okay, so now why did that happen? Oh, that happened because my radial symmetry was so it created this shape because it was radial symmetrying my table leg as I was Z remeshing it. So if I deactivate symmetry, then it'll should do what we want. I think this is the extent of the detail that I'm going to go to with the table legs. I think that's detailed enough. I think I'm going to go up to 30,000. I'll only need a couple of subdivision levels. And then just project all just to get that sharpness back. That will do. And we can then make it as detailed as we like now with, and sharpen up some of these edges. for the now that we've got subdivision levels and whatnot, and good edge flow, more importantly. Okay, that'll do us. And these table legs have a little block above them where it's attached to the table. I am not a carpenter, so don't hold me to this terminology. And said block can just be that. And if I match the a table leg has 3 subdivision levels. The block at the top also has 3 subdivision levels. If we then merge the two together, it will retain the subdivision levels of both, which is nice, because that means that we can come down and have a lighter subtool to work with. So for the top of the table, this is going to be really basic. Kind of. So the one I'm using for reference here is kind of long, but I want this one to kind of be short and stubby. What I'm going to do, I could go into the Z modeler here, but I think maybe me just throwing together this might be a lot quicker. Essentially blocking things out still, so we will swing back to all of these elements in a detail pass. Now if I go into my transform type and go to deformer, I can mask out the top only and bring that in. See how that will make a nice curve for us that way. And then if I do the same thing this way, should end up with a nice curve going on there. View it from above to make sure we've got a good 45-degree-ish angle. Yeah, that will do. And then we can separate that part off. Go back to the main box. And I'm going to add drawers. They will be on the side of the character, and so it'll be quite hard for us to see it, but like with the buttons, we don't know whether these details are going to be seen, so it's not that much effort for us to put them in, so I'm going to put them in. Even if we just block them out really roughly for now, you know, they're in, so we can. And then separate that out, because I can do maybe a similar thing that I did for the top. Use the deformer to just give it a little bit of something. Just a little bit of shape to make it interesting, you know. But we don't need to go crazy with this, because whether you can see them or not, you won't be able to see them much. And so I'll quickly use the same technique as we did with the legs to make handles for these. So we're going to go radial on Y. Probably could have done it with the X as well here because it's a sphere, but there we go. That's all I'll do. That seemed to get what I wanted pretty quickly. And did I move the draw inside? I think I did. Okay, let's try and find the middle. Okay, that will do. Can mirror and weld both the drawers and the drawer handles. And then move the legs into position. Turn symmetry off because we could really mess things up there. Now this block needs to be a lot longer because it kind of overhangs. We've got a little bit of overhang there and a little bit of overhang there. Excellent. So if I mirror and weld this, can't do it because of the subdivision levels. Oh, that's interesting. Didn't like that because I stretched it, you see. It doesn't like the fact that I stretched it out. Okay then. Let's do it your way. Can elongate them there. Will it do the same thing? No. We good? Okay, maybe I'll go 2 of those edge loops, using those to line it up. And then can mirror and weld. I think we could probably get away with 32,000 on this. I could freeze. Yeah, what I'll do is I'll freeze the subdivision levels and see what we get once we mirror and weld it. So you can't mirror and weld if you have subdivision levels, and so you either freeze subdivision levels or you delete the subdivision levels. However, not every time when you unfreeze the subdivision levels will it bring back your model exactly how you wanted it. But with these, I think we're okay because they're quite simple shapes. Okay, so if we duplicate these, move them back, we can line them up same way we line the others. 2 of the main edge loops. Okay, there we have it. Now, to bring all of these individual subdivision subtools back over to our main sculpt, ideally we want the table to be one subtool, or at least one group. 1 second please. I have really bad hay fever, by the way, so if you missed that warning at the beginning, that's why I'm sniffing. Thanks. I ask you to be patient. So what we can either do here is unify all of the subdivision levels, so make all of the subdivision levels of the subtools the same. So here I'm Control D in them to make them all 3 subdivision levels. Now we can we'll be able to merge all of these and it will retain that 3 subdivision level, retain the 3 subdivision levels over the whole model. Or what we could do is drop them all off to no subdivision levels and then merge them, which no, I'll do it this way. 3 subdivision levels would be nice. And so all I'm going to do is, knowing that they're all 3 subdivision levels, is merge them down, and you'll see, unless it goes over your allotted your maximum level that your computer can handle of active points, if it goes over that, then it will take out the subdivision levels. But at the moment we're on subdivision level 3 and we're 832,000, so that's more than doable. I can even now they're all together in one, up it to 4 subdivision levels, and then we have 3 million. So if I dropped it down, then we're at 51,000 for the entire desk, which is lovely. I'm just going to rename that to desk. And then we're ready to bring it into our Boris Johnson sculpt. Now, let's see. And then all we need to do there is insert, select the desk, and then there we have it. And then it's just about popping it into position. I'm going to pop it into a very symmetrical position at the moment, but when it comes to posing, the character will move the desk into place as well. So here we can kind of play about with the size of the table, and now we can get a better idea of kind of what's visible. I just had a thought of it would have been great to do the podium that he was stood at during the COVID briefings, but I went with his desk now, so and I do like this desk a lot, so this will work very well for what I want. Just move the tie a little bit to a better position. Maybe I'll even flop the tie down at this point. Flop the tie down. Just roughing it out. That's probably premature, actually, you know, because it's not going to be straightforward like that. So, okay, so we're getting there. I think now I'm going to add in some belt loops for the pants and some subdivision levels in here as well. We start going up in subdivision levels, they'll start resembling dropped trowel a little bit better. And I think then, if I'm not mistaken, I'll be ready to move into the pose, but don't hold me to that. I'm kind of winging it, but I kind of wing it with every sculpt that I do, so. That's the beauty of Zbrush, it allows you to wing it and get away with it. Obviously not on professional commissions, obviously. So just adding in some more defined creases of the pants. I think now that I'm working with things that are kind of close to the base, I'm tempted to put in just a temporary base. It's usually around this time I'll put in a temporary base and just kind of get a feel for what it is that we're gonna be working with in terms of a shape and because essentially with the 3D print stuff I find that the size of the base that the sculpture's on basically determines your maximum size that the sculpture can be. With the Dryad statue, let me see if I can make you see this. Not that one. I've got a million tabs open, I apologise. There we go. So with this, the base of the Dryad was essentially as small as I could make it. I designed it so that it was literally from toe to heel, as opposed to this whole like diorama thing. And as a result, I was able to print this quite large, but with the first one that I did, I made the base into more of a diorama, which went. It's kind of the size of her, but I could have made that a lot smaller and made this a lot bigger. So essentially, that ended up being quite small by comparison. And so I would rather this be a little bit bigger, but we have so many elements that are touching the base that maybe it's going to be a bit tricky to create a smaller base, you know. So we'll block it out and see. Make the base as small as possible because I don't see any detail really in the base. I don't see me putting much detail at all into the base. I want the focal point to be what is sat on top of it. So I'll just have no wasted space. This will just be a essentially a flat surface, so it doesn't fall over and so that it sits on a flat surface. Yeah, I think that will do kind of nicely for now, and then this will help me just figure out where the elements will touch the ground and where things can pinch in and whatnot. And then I can lift up the table slightly, and the belt there is clipping, so we can lift that. How are we doing for time? Another 40 minutes left. Okay, so what I'll do is create these belt loops, and then we can get on to blocking out a pose for the last half hour. Would be nice. That would be very nice. So we'll just initialize. Where am I going? Initialize a cube. Make this cube a rectangle. Z modeler, highlight those, cube, brush it out. Then move these parts in to create the loopy bit. Do that for that side, and then can we mirror and weld on the Z there? It's a good question. On the Y, sorry, not the Z. Yes, yes we can. I like it when things work. Okie dokie. Make sure I put that back to the X. Inflate it out a bit. There we go. Belt loop. Bring this down to the jeans. I mean, if we don't have subdivision levels there, then I'm going to do a nifty trick here, which will just speed up the placement of these belt loops, because there's going to be quite a few of them. If I whack that back in the middle and go to my brush palette. Oh gosh, I have a lot of brushes there. Can I even do this? Well. Usually, yes, I can do that, sorry. So I'm going to create an insert multi-mesh from everything, it would seem, but so if you want to create an insert mesh from your currently selected subtool, you can create an insert mesh and then hit new, and then what it will do is create a draggable brush of your subtool. I've probably explained that badly, but I will demonstrate it instead. So if I now go to the belt and select it, struggling to want to select that for some reason, so I'm going to go in here, and then you can literally select it, drag and draw out your pre-sculpted subtool wherever you want to on your mesh, and I can come in and do these really quickly around the edge. And the great thing is it once you've drawn it out, it will mask out the object that you've drawn it out onto, and then quite niftily you can reposition it. And so I'll do it like that. Maybe I will elongate it slightly so it's make it deeper, and then I want one there. Do the same thing with that, position it slightly, make it slightly deeper so that we'll join the jeans, and then do another. Deeper. And then another. You get the picture. I mean, this is probably isn't the greatest example to really show off the power of the Create Nano Mesh, but even with this, you can see how potentially monotonous adding belt loop after belt loop manually and then repositioning it, and this may seem tedious, but trust me, it is a lot faster than not doing it with a nano mesh. So I'll just see where that other one is on the other side, line that up, draw it out. And the same for the front. And it's not exactly like these, it's an ordinary way to sculpt pants, you know. This is a first for me, drawing dropped trousers, sculpting them rather. But that's what these streams are about. See where we go with it. Improvise. Okay, so with a better brush selected, let's select our move brush and just, instead of moving the belt loops themselves, let's move the pants. Into a better position for them. Okay. Pop them up there, and belt loops will undoubtedly give us problems when it comes to the 3D printing of it, but I'm totally fine with that as long as you're prepared for the problems that it'll give you, and it doesn't matter. That's not to say that I'm always prepared for the problems. Problems are part of the fun. Okay. Okie dokie. Now let's separate out just the belt loops, not the belt buckle. If not, just temporarily, because we want them to be a little bit. There's a big gap there. Let's close the gaps. The good thing about them being dropped trousers is that can be quite rough and ready with how I'm sculpting them, and it doesn't seem to make them look any worse. So we'll do that because they're going to be undone trousers, but figure out how to sculpt that later. Okay, so belt loops are in. Table is in. Let's see. Now the detail within the pants is going to be tricky. Let's pretend that we've got. Well, let's not pretend, we do have two legs going in there. So let's find the legs, which is now the body. And let's work with them. Like they're pushing the pants out. Can get rid of the body, I think. Let's utilize the edge loop masking to be able to create a new subdivision, a new polygroup for the legs, and then we can isolate them and get the body out of the way. Let's up the intensity. Oh, we're sculpting on the legs there. Up the intensity quite a bit so that we can get this blocked out quicker. So there's going to be where the crotch part is pushing up, it's going to be all this kind of stuff. These kind of creases, and then his legs are going to go into the leg holes, but they're going to be all crumpled up. Something like this. So then we can just follow these lines essentially with the dam standard, creating a sharper creases in. And I think essentially we will get away with this amount of detail for the 3D print. Because essentially it's going to be underneath everything. Why has everything disappeared? I could not even tell you why that is the case. It does not usually do that. Zbrush is acting weird. Rule number 1, save it straight away. Alright, past 7:30, so let's look at doing some pose stuff. This isn't going to be getting it into its final pose, but I'm at a point now where I could quite happily sculpt in asymmetry now. Most of the pieces. Okay, not sure why it's doing this. Very strange indeed. So let's see if I can get rid of this weird glitch that's happening. So I saved it there, so always yes. Let's get rid, let's draw it back on. There we go. Huh. Weird. So it's like a... Okay, let's get rid. Draw it back on. As soon as we start moving it, is it? Bizarre. Well, so this is very odd. So I'm going to close down Zbrush and reopen. And see what we have here. Why was that happening? So we should apart from the big white screen, should jump back into a normal looking ZBrush. Okay. Sometimes it's just about working with the glitches. Come on. Yeah, there we go. There we go. I'm not sure what was going on there. But whatever was happening was happening. Okay, so now essentially our pose is going to be slightly more hunched over. I want him kind of hunched over as if he's feasting on something, with documents and his work and all that kind of stuff kind of strewn all over the place and very haphazardly out in front of him on the desk. I think maybe that could change. Maybe that could change to something along the lines of something a little darker, basically. Maybe. We'll see where it goes. But essentially, he's going to be more hunched over on over the desk. Let me just quickly scale up my document. So you've got a better view. Make it grey again, and then we're in an okay position, I think. I'm just wondering now whether I should do finger detail on this guy, but as in like fingernails and stuff, or whether I should leave him kind of you know what, I'm going to quickly do some fingernails on him. Won't take long at all. Feel like the rougher the better, really. And we can just mask out an area and lift out fingernails. It's quite quick. And then if we invert that mask, then we can go in and inflate the cuticle area and pull this bit out. You can just kind of nudge them into place then. And then essentially do the same thing for all the fingers. And hope you've got symmetry activated, if you do. We can also do something like this with the gizmo, which I find is probably a lot better than what I just did. Yeah, you can see how much better that is. But hey, this is meant to be rough and ready, this sculpture. I probably tend to, when I'm in the zone and when I kind of get into a flow of things, I kind of sometimes tend to go towards the more clean aspects of sculpting and the more technical. Which for a sculpture like this, where I want it to be kind of gritty and handmade and very asymmetrical, it's not the best practice, really. You know, like even now I'm getting very into the cleanness of doing this mask process. When really I should just be pulling and pushing and making it more expressive. But it's hard, it's very hard to do. So do this index finger, maybe round off the end of that a little bit, only a little bit. I like how blocky the hands are. And the thumbnail, be a little bit longer. Tiny bit. Standard brush. And I'm not going to go into the details of the creases of the fingers and whatnot, because depending on what the particular fingers are doing and how much they're stretched and stuff, I'm quite happy to sculpt that in asymmetry once it's posed, and determine how creased certain parts and how fleshed out certain bits will be once the pose is determined. Okay, so I'll just save it before we pose it. When you pose a character, it's not as straightforward as just moving it around into the position you want. You have to kind of ask yourself before you start your pose, am I at the level of detail that I need to be with all of the parts that I am, and if not, am I willing to sculpt that detail in asymmetry on both sides individually, because both sides have both ways have their advantages and disadvantages. For instance, if I went into the face and sculpted all lovely detail, and then decided that the pose would be an open mouth, then a lot of that detail around the jaw and around where the cheeks are going to stretch out is going to be destroyed, and you'll have to redo that anyway. Or if I went into high detail with, say, the stomach here, or the knees, the legs, or what have you, and then decided that the legs are going to be straight, you're going to have to end up resculpting a lot of detail there anyway. So you've just got to ask yourself, really, am I at the point of posing? Am I at the point with my sculpt where posing makes sense? And I'm fairly sure I am. So I'm at least going to sculpt out. I'm at least going to nudge it a little bit further towards the pose that I'm looking for, and just get a little bit of asymmetry on the go. You know, it's good to start thinking asymmetrically at a point during your sculpt. You know, if you think symmetrically for too long, it kind of becomes harder and harder to come out of it, I find, and harder to get a pose determined. And so what I'm going to do essentially is just play around with what can move and where. I'm just doing little movements, masking off areas, and then wiggling it around, seeing what can move freely and what's going to give me a bit more of a headache. I can see that tie is going to give me a lot of headaches, and so I'm going to isolate it out. I'm going to take it off, rather, hide it rather, and so now I will redo that mask that I did, maybe a bit lower down, because all of these are separate elements as well. There's no unified edge flow to it, and so it's quite hard to get the deformation that will. See, I'm getting a bit of the toilet in there. Don't want that to deform, and we want to centralize that. There we go. It's a nice wiggle there, Boris. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna have him. So these are real tiny movements that we're going to be doing because of just how much this collar area is going to be messed up. If we just do a massive movement, there's going to be more work in sculpting that, repairing that detail. You know, this is what I mean by it's not just straightforward posing like the character's rigged or something. It's gonna destroy your model to a certain degree, and it doesn't mean that sculpting is over. Far from it, to be honest. The sculpting just takes on a new form when you after you've posed it. So it's not, fortunately, it's not going to be so extreme, the pose. That's why I kind of didn't sculpt it out in A pose, because, or T pose, because it's I knew he was essentially going to be in the pose that I'm going to sculpt him in. And let's hope that you don't want it to go too crazy with the sculpting tools when you're in the T-pose mesh, because you don't want to change the geometry at all. If you change the geometry, then it's not going to be able to go back to your previous mesh. So now for the arm, I'm going to mask out what I think is going to be the pieces we need. Looks like it. I always just do a little bit of a over exaggerated movement just to see whether we're picking up any parts that we don't want to shift. And then drop down to where the shoulder bone is. There we go. Now I don't want that to be so tight into the arm there, to the body there, so I'm going to drop it down a little bit. And it doesn't, because of the nature of the sculpt and the style that I'm going for, if one arm is slightly bigger than the other, as long as the aesthetic benefits from it, then happy days. I don't care if it's not anatomically whatever. I'm just purely after the aesthetics and the getting the character down, okay, so there we go. We can just pull that in there, lean it up against the body. Got to keep one eye on these hard-edged, hard surface elements, because you don't want them stretching or warping too much, because it'll just start looking like it's been stretched and warped, essentially. And you want to retain that. You want to retain the hard edges and the hard surface parts. Get that hand as nicely posed as we can. Can isolate it out. And then get rid of that tie again. Deal with that later. So grab the hand there, pull it up. See if we can get the elbow correctly masked. See, it can get awfully fiddly. So we want that masked as well. No, we don't. We want that unmasked. The rest of it masked. Get rid of the tie again. And that should be us. The buttons need to go with it. put the gizmo on the elbow. Okay, lovely. And then we can soften the mask a tiny bit. Okay, what time are we on? 4 minutes, so enough time to do just had a little idea about whether he should be pointing with the other hand, so I don't have time to do that. So what I do have time to do essentially is play around with the face a little bit for 5 minutes, see what we can get him doing. So, oh, that's great. Well done me for making each eyebrow an individual polygroup. So now we can raise the eyebrow. Being careful not to stretch it too much. And yeah, I was going to use the transform tools, but there's no time. So I'm gonna lift that up. Lift out that eye. Oh yes. Asymmetry. You've got to love it. The amount of character that's coming into this guy now. Okay, that's gonna mask them out individually. So if we go, just trying now to isolate the head only, but unfortunately the head isn't its own subtool. There's lots of subtools within it, polygroups rather. So I've got to highlight them all individually, which is a little bit of a faff, but I did it, I think, yes. Because I think the head is going to be slightly more turned to its side. Kind of a little bit like that. Essentially like a Igor type guy. Okay, so now we can just sort that tie out a bit more globally. And add a bend to it. And then we can even, well, I'll save any real shaping for when we've gone back. Okay, so I'm going to move one of the legs so it's at slightly more acute angle, I think. So move it to the center, and then turn that a little bit more inwards. Can even get the move brush to be a bit more brutal with it. And then with the pants we can raise this interior part up to signify that his foot's gone in there. And then with this shoe, gonna grab the heel area and then rotate it out, pull it in a bit. So that can be as if it's kind of straining. And then I think this kind of big brush, with a big move brush, I'm gonna very gently, very minute movements, I'm gonna pull and push certain areas of it. So we have we're kind of doing this, then we're kind of faking the asymmetry a little bit, making it seem a little bit more natural, organic, getting rid of as many symmetrical shapes as we can. Table itself can be just brought onto a little bit of an angle there, so nothing's quite straight on. Okay, so we're a little bit over time now, but let's, fingers crossed, T-pose to subtool mesh works perfectly fine. It's just going to go through the subtools and fingers crossed move them all to where we moved them all. Happy days. Oh yes. Okay, so there is a little bit more life and soul into the character now. We've added a bit more detail. We've fleshed out parts that we wanted to flesh out and posed him. We've added in props like the table. We've added in the belt loops, the buttons for the jacket. Yeah, I really think I'm going to get him to point with that other hand. But anyway, that's for next time. Let me save this out. And thank you. Thank you for joining. If you've made it to the end, then thank you very much. These early streams are essentially just for me to keep practicing and keep on it. And if I can help a few people along the way, then that's all the better. But at the moment, it's really good for me to talk out loud my process as it's going by, and streaming gives me an excuse to talk to myself loud, and yeah, it's really helpful. So I'm going to keep doing them. Having said that, next week I am in Amsterdam, so I won't be doing them next Wednesday, but the week after I'll be back on it. Can have a long think about where to take this and at what point it will be done. But in the meantime, thank you very much. I will link to my Etsy shop where I'm selling a few finished sculptures down below. So for anybody that is watching this back, go check that out, and follow me on there, like, subscribe this channel. I would really appreciate that. And yeah, I'll see you next time.